Welcome back to the Jaco Report. A bill to make it illegal to discuss homosexuality in public schools in Missouri, except in science class, has been introduced in the Missouri House of Representatives. Its chief sponsor says it's designed, quoting him now, to protect the moral values that are most important to Missouri families. Another bill in the legislature would attempt to eliminate tenure for public school teachers. Millionaire conservative St. Louis activist Rex Singfield has said the public school system was a plot hatched by the Ku Klux Klan. Now, these are just a few examples of the political brawl in Missouri over public schools. And to critics of public education, our guest today represents a lot that's wrong with America's schools. His supporters say he is exactly what's best about the public schools. Franklin McCallie was principal at Kirkwood High School for 22 years. He spearheaded anti-bullying and anti-racism initiatives there. A community fixture, he continued his activism after retirement, marching with the Occupy movement in downtown St. Louis. He was almost drafted to run for mayor of Kirkwood. The Chattanooga, Tennessee native says his activism started when a private school founded by his grandfather refused to admit African Americans. His career as an educator mixed his passion for social justice with a passion for public education. His critics say activism has no place in the public schools. His supporters, including parents and students at Kirkwood High, say it fostered a sense of citizenship and belonging. After 3 decades in the St. Louis area, Franklin McCallie and his wife returned to Chattanooga in June. We sat down with him at his home right next door to Kirkwood High School. We talked to him about public education and began by asking him about the bill in the Missouri legislature that would make it illegal for homosexuality to be discussed in school outside of science class, and whether he thinks it undermines the kind of anti-bullying efforts he has always supported.
Charles, if one kid in your school is bullied and you don't handle it, you got an unsafe school. We have to protect every single kid in a public school. Every single kid, any school. I went to a private school myself in high school. But I was 22 years at Kirkwood High School. And every single day, we tried to protect every single kid. And we did it by going to the rest of the students, all the students, and saying, hey, don't you want a great school? Isn't this a place you want to be? The fact is, bullies, there are very few bullies compared to all the kids you got in school, but there are bullies. There are people who do that.
The entire campaign about bullying, though, and I was wondering how you felt about this, has become ideological. It's become part of the culture wars in this country, with the idea of not being able to mention, for example, gay or homosexual in public school classes. Given that you've worked on this issue for so many years, how do you feel about that?
I don't know what these gentlemen are thinking about in the legislature when they say you better not mention homosexual, gay, lesbian. For some reason, they are so frightened. I guess they're frightened. I'm not sure. I don't know their motivation. I don't know their motivation, but I do know this. When I came to Kirkwood High School, the superintendent then, Tom Keating, said to me, I want you to work on the first big problem we got, black-white relations. And for 22 years, we worked on black-white relations because look at our society, we needed that. In 1998, when I found out that gay kids, and I didn't find out until 1998, I came in '79. In 1998, when I found out that our gay kids were feeling so bullied, fag and gay were used as real attack agents, we started working on that. And you had to talk about it. And a couple of people said, listen, you're right, every kid should be protected, but when you're protecting the gay and homosexual kids, could you not talk about it? And I said, you can't do that. You can't do that. You talk about everybody. You talk about what you're doing.
Mr. McCallie, you've got to know that a lot of people, especially conservative critics of public education, say people like you are what's wrong with public education. They say you shouldn't be doing any form of social outreach. It should be reading, writing, arithmetic, period, end of discussion, and that you, rather being part of the solution, are indeed part of the problem. What do you think?
Students are human beings. People, parents are people, teachers are people. We're living our lives, Charles. When we go to school to learn English and history and science, we're still human beings. We live in the classrooms. We live in the hallways. We live in the cafeterias. We live on the athletic court and in the stands watching it. We live at the dances. We live at all the activities. We go into the bathroom and see each other and say hi. And sometimes bullying takes place there, and I've got to handle it there. We're human beings. We're people. We're learning all the time from each other. we learn things that don't have just to do with the classroom. The whole school, which I'm pointing to now, Kirkwood High School, is a great laboratory of learning. That's what we do. You can't say don't talk about anything else, don't only talk about English. That isn't the way it goes.
Free public education's been a basis of American society for a number of years, practically since the beginning of the Republic. And yet you find that under attack now with everything from attacks against teachers' unions, to tenure, to staff, to the supposed danger in public schools. Given all these attacks on public schools, what do you think's going on here?
Let me tell you the great thing about free public education. Public schools take everybody. We take everybody who walks in the door. I went to a private school myself with my name, McCallie School, founded by my grandfather and great uncle in Chattanooga, Tennessee. My father became headmaster, my brother became headmaster. They don't take everybody. They keep certain people out. For a long time, my father kept black people out. They only take people who pass their tests. I got into public education in Maryland because I took a course which meant that I didn't have to pay the state as much money if I would go teach 2 years in public schools. I got into public schools and said, this is amazing. We take everybody, and we take everybody's parents. We take every idea that walks in. As a principal, you know the hardest thing I had to do was sit down with a bunch of parents who all felt these differences, but that was great. This parent expressed this idea, this parent expressed that, and we had to sit there and work it out as a community.
A lot of this has become politically loaded. For example, critics refer to public schools as, quote, government schools, close quote, with all the baggage that mentioning the government connotes. What do you think is going on here? Why do you think that particular formulation?
Well, Charles, you got all the people, you got a lot of people saying things against government, but people love roads and bridges and things like that. They love things that they get. When a tornado comes through, everybody says, FEMA, FEMA, help us. We want government help when we want it. And there are other people who say, I don't want it when I don't want it. You've asked, the question you asked is very tough, but one of the answers to me is, there are people who do not want a range of ideas. They want a very small set of ideas. Public schools are for a range of ideas. They send their kids to a small private school that said, we only do this, we'll only deal with this. That's not what a public school does. Remember, schools are not plants that take factories that take a raw material that is the same. You don't pass through a raw material that has all been screened and goes in and we build something with it. The raw material that comes into public schools is the American kid, the young person, trained, educated, grown by all the American parents. We take them all. For some reason, there are people who are saying, we don't like that. We won't, I don't know what they're saying. What do they think we're going to do? Now look, have we failed somewhere? Yeah. We've got some of the greatest teachers in the world, and we do some of the finest work in the world. We really do. American public schools are terrific. Look at many of the people who have come out of public schools and are doing great things all over our country, all over our world. However, there are some teachers who are not qualified. They're just not qualified. And some of them, as they even get older, they're less qualified. So everybody says, fire them, fire them. This has been a tough problem. Seniority has been a tough problem with us.
You've obviously loved the decades you've spent in public education. There have been a lot of things you've worked on. But in all that time, what has been your single biggest satisfaction in spending your life in public education?
The biggest satisfaction I see is when we take all these different kids coming from all these different homes, all socioeconomic levels, all religious affiliations, all kinds of races, colors, and we sit in a room. We may be studying science. History is one. We start studying history. We start talking about the urban situation. And this kid over here says one thing, and we understand exactly where that kid's coming from. And this kid says, oh no, that isn't the way it is. Here it is. When we had the great desegregation program here in the city of St. Louis, it opened a lot of white kids' eyes when black kids from the city would say, well, here's what we do. But it also opened the black kids' eyes when the urban kids said, well, here's what we do. Here's how we say. The great culture's coming together. That is what America's about. That's why I don't understand people who are saying, just let us be our small little thing. We just want to be this. We don't want to be that. That's what America has been. I love it when our kids come in and we talk and we see them grow, and the next year they look at something, they say, boy, I've learned this, Mr. McCallie. And then when they reach the senior year and graduate, do they have it all together? No, not necessarily. Some go to college, some go to the service. I dropped out of college, went to the service. I went to the Navy, Charles. I needed the Navy. I met guys I'd never met before. And when I went back to college, I made straight A's. And I wasn't making straight A's when I got out. I run into our kids and say, what are you doing? Some of them say, Mr. McCallie, I've learned so much since high school. I've learned now what you guys were trying to tell me, and I didn't believe. And Mr. McCallie, I wish I'd worked harder in high school. Or they'll say, Mr. McCallie, I feel so good about the respect you and the staff gave me. I knew I was somebody.
Former Kirkwood High Principal Franklin McCallie reflecting on decades in public education.